Sarah Chen wiped the red Martian dust from her goggles and surveyed the quiet expanse of New Mars Colony's industrial sector from her shop's observation deck. 20 years ago, this area had bustled with independent mechanics and engineers. Now, her Chen's Universal Repairs stood as the last holdout against the corporate giants that had swallowed everything else. The familiar weight of her augmented reality interface pressed against her temple as she ran diagnostics on her latest project, a beaten-up mining hauler that had seen better days. The ship's owner couldn't afford corporate maintenance fees, like most of her clients these days. That's why they came to her, the last independent mechanic on Mars. The alert came without warning. Her AR interface flashed red as something massive breached Mars' upper atmosphere, moving far too fast for standard protocols. Sarah's enhanced vision tracked the object's descent, her implants calculating trajectory and velocity. Whatever it wasn't human-made. The energy signature was completely foreign to her extensive database. The object crashed 3 kilometers from her shop, sending a plume of crimson dust into the thin Martian atmosphere. Sarah's first instinct was to alert colony security, but something made her pause. In 2 decades of fixing ships for the desperate and the secretive, she'd learned when to keep quiet. She grabbed her emergency repair kit and hopped onto her modified surface rover. As she approached the crash site, the object's true nature became clear. It was a ship, but like nothing she'd ever seen. The hull appeared to be grown rather than manufactured, its surface a lattice of crystalline structures that pulsed with internal light. A section of the crystal matrix had shattered on impact, and through the breach, Sarah could see movement. Her AR interface couldn't make sense of the readings it was getting from inside. She approached cautiously, repair kit ready, though she wasn't sure her tools would work on this alien technology. That's when she saw it, or rather them. A figure emerged from the wreckage, moving with liquid grace despite clear signs of injury. The being appeared to be made of the same crystalline material as the ship, their form constantly shifting and refracting light like a living prism. Where a human would have facial features, this creature had a complex array of geometric patterns that somehow conveyed emotion. Help. The being projected directly into Sarah's mind, their thoughts carrying an otherworldly resonance. The ship must repair before they find. Sarah's AR interface was going haywire, trying to process the alien's method of communication. She switched it off, relying on her natural senses instead. "I'm a mechanic," she said aloud, unsure if the being could understand. "I can help with the ship, but I've never seen technology like this before." The crystalline being's patterns shifted, creating what Sarah interpreted as relief. "You are Sarah Chen," they projected, known to many as the one who fixes the unfixable. "I am Echo, and I bring warning of great danger to both our peoples." Sarah's hands tightened on her repair kit. She'd spent years avoiding corporate entanglements, keeping to herself, fixing ships, and keeping secrets. But something in Echo's presence, in the urgent gravity of their thoughts, told her she couldn't walk away from this. "Your ship's quantum matrix is severely damaged," she said, her experienced eye-catching details despite the alien architecture. "We need to get it to my shop before colonial sensors pick up the crash signature. Can you move?" Echo's form flickered, their crystalline structure dimming slightly. "Yes, but not far. The damage extends to my physical form." Sarah nodded, already calculating. Her shop's private bay was shielded from corporate scanners, a necessity in her line of work. If she could get the ship there, she might have a chance at repairs. But first, she needed to understand what she was dealing with. "I'll help you," she said firmly, "but I need to know what I'm getting into. Who's looking for you, and what kind of danger are we talking about?" Echo's patterns swirled with dark colors. "The danger comes from both our worlds, Sarah Chen. There are those among both humans and Lumini who profit from conflict. They plan to trigger a war that will devastate both our civilizations. I carry proof, but my pursuers are close." Sarah's mind raced with implications. Her life had been about fixing broken things, staying out of politics, surviving on the margins of corporate control. But as she looked at Echo's wounded form and their damaged ship, she knew she was about to break all her own rules. "Right," she said, pulling out her toolkit. "Let's get to work. We'll need to stabilize your ship's core before we can move it. Show me how your systems work. I'm a quick study." As Echo began sharing knowledge of Lumini technology, Sarah felt a familiar excitement rising in her chest. This is what she lived for: the challenge of the impossible repair, the puzzle of new technology. She just hoped they had enough time before whoever was chasing Echo caught up with them. The private bay of Chen's Universal Repairs was never meant to hold anything like Echo's ship. Sarah had spent the last 6 hours trying to interface her equipment with the crystalline vessel's systems, while Echo's weakened form pulsed with diminishing light beside her. The alien technology responded to thought and intention as much as physical interaction, making Sarah's usual repair protocols useless. "Your ship's quantum matrix is like nothing I've ever seen," Sarah muttered, her AR interface struggling to map the complex energy patterns flowing through the crystalline structure. "It's almost like it's alive." "It is," Echo projected, their thoughts carrying a mixture of pain and pride. "Our ships are grown, not built. They are extensions of ourselves, sharing our consciousness." Their geometric patterns shifted, displaying what Sarah had learned to recognize as concern. "But this damage, it goes deeper than the physical structure." Sarah nodded, beginning to understand. The ship wasn't just broken, it was wounded, like Echo themselves. She'd need to approach this repair differently, thinking less like a mechanic and more like a healer. Her hands moved across the crystalline surface, feeling the vibrations of energy beneath. A warning flashed across her AR display. Colonial security ships were performing a sweep of the industrial sector, their scan patterns uncomfortably close to her location. The bay's shielding would hold, but she couldn't shake the feeling that time was running out. "Echo," she said firmly, "I need to know what's really going on. These scans aren't random. They're looking for you, aren't they?" The alien's form flickered, their patterns becoming more angular, almost aggressive. "Yes. What I carry, it would destroy everything they've worked for." Echo's consciousness brushed against Sarah's mind, sharing images that made her gasp. She saw vast fleets being constructed in secret, both human and Lumini. She saw manipulated data, false flag attacks being planned, careful orchestration of fear and hatred between their species, and behind it all, a coalition of corrupt officials and corporate leaders from both civilizations, positioning themselves to profit from the coming conflict. "They're going to start a war," Sarah whispered, the scale of the conspiracy making her head spin. "Both sides are in on it." "Yes," Echo confirmed. "I was part of the Lumini diplomatic corps. When I discovered the truth, I tried to warn my superiors. Instead, they ordered my elimination. So I fled, carrying proof that could expose everything. But my ship was damaged in the escape." Sarah's mind raced with implications. She'd always known the corporations were corrupt. But this was beyond anything she'd imagined. How many people know about this? Too few to stop it. Echo projected darkly. "The conspirators have spent years placing their agents in key positions. Any opposition is quickly silenced. That's why I came to Mars, to find someone outside their control. Your reputation for independence, for helping those who have nowhere else to turn, it reached even our worlds." A bitter laugh escaped Sarah's lips. "So instead of staying out of trouble, my reputation for keeping secrets actually brought it right to my door." She shook her head, already knowing she couldn't walk away from this. "All right, let's see what we're dealing with." She pulled up the ship's damage schematics on her AR display. The quantum matrix was severely compromised, but there might be a way. Sarah had spent years collecting abandoned tech, studying both human and alien systems. She'd learned that principles of energy and matter were universal, even if the applications differed. "I think I can help," she said slowly, "but we'll need to modify your ship's matrix. I've got some experimental quantum stabilizers that might work if we can integrate them with your crystalline structure. It won't be pretty, but it should hold. Echo's patterns swirled with curiosity. You would merge human technology with Lumini biosystems. It's never been done. That's because most people try to make different technologies work together, Sarah explained, already pulling components from her private stock. We need to make them work as one. Your ship is alive, so we'll treat this more like a transplant than a repair. As she worked, Sarah became aware of subtle changes in the ship's energy field. The crystalline structure began responding to her touch, almost like it was learning her intentions. Echo watched with increasing brightness, their own form seeming to strengthen as the ship's systems stabilized. Remarkable, they projected. You understand our technology on an intuitive level. Perhaps this is why. The thought cut off as proximity alarms blared through the bay. Sarah's AR display lit up with multiple contacts, corporate security vessels dropping out of orbit directly above them. They found us. Echo's patterns contracted in alarm. We must. Wait, Sarah interrupted, studying the sensor data. These aren't normal security ships. Look at their energy signatures. They're running hot, weapons active. Corporate security never flies armed patrols over civilian areas. Because they're not security, Echo projected grimly. They're the ones who shot me down. The conspirators' private enforcement squad. Sarah's hands flew over her control panel, reinforcing the base shielding. How long until the ship's repairs are complete? Hours, at least. The Matrix needs time to integrate with your modifications. Sarah checked her weapons locker. She had some defensive equipment. You didn't survive as an independent mechanic without protection, but nothing that could handle multiple armed ships. They needed another option. Then we'll have to buy that time, she said, a plan forming in her mind. Echo, how much control do you have over your ship's quantum systems right now? Sarah's hands flew across her workshop's control panel, bringing up a holographic display of Mars orbital traffic. 6 heavily armed ships were descending toward their position, their energy signatures masking them from standard colonial security scanners. But Sarah's modified sensors, built from years of salvaged tech, saw right through the camouflage. Your ship's quantum drive, she said to Echo, whose crystalline form pulsed with nervous energy. Even damage, it can still generate field effects. Right. Yes, Echo projected, their geometric patterns shifting in confusion. But without full matrix stability, any quantum manipulation could be catastrophic. Sarah grinned. Catastrophic is exactly what we need. Look, your pursuers are expecting a damaged ship trying to escape. They're not expecting us to fight back. But what if we could turn your ship's damaged quantum drive into an advantage? Understanding flickered through Echo's patterns. The unstable quantum field. You want to weaponize it. Not exactly. Sarah pulled up schematics of her workshop's power grid. I want to use it as a mirror. Your ship's quantum field, unstable as it is, still bends spacetime. If we can sync it with my workshop's shields at just the right frequency, we could create a cascading reflection effect. Echo finished, their thoughts brightening with comprehension. Make them see what we want them to see. Sarah was already rerouting power, her augmented reality interface, helping her calculate the precise adjustments needed. Better than that, we can make them see multiple copies of your ship, all trying to escape in different directions. They'll have to split their forces. The hostile ships were getting closer. Sarah could feel the vibration of their engines through her workshop structure. They had minutes, maybe less. Echo, I need you to interface with your ship. When I give the signal, pulse your quantum drive at exactly the frequency I'm sending to your systems. Don't try to stabilize it. Let it fluctuate naturally. Echo's form merged partially with their ship's crystalline structure, creating a mesmerizing display of light and geometry. Sarah took a deep breath, her fingers hovering over the final command sequence. Now, the quantum drive pulsed, its unstable energy field intersecting with Sarah's modified shields. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then the workshop's sensors lit up with dozens of phantom signatures, each one a perfect replica of Echo's ship, all launching in different directions. Above them, the attacking ships scattered, their formation breaking as they tried to track multiple targets. Sarah watched through her sensors as chaos erupted in the Martian sky, each vessel chasing a different ghost. "It's working," she breathed. "But we don't have long before they figure it out. We need to move while they're confused." Echo's consciousness brushed against her mind. The ship's matrix is still highly unstable. A real launch could tear it apart. "Then we don't launch," Sarah said, already moving to her next set of controls. "We go down instead." She activated a sequence she'd hoped never to use. Emergency protocols that would drop her entire workshop through a series of abandoned mining tunnels beneath the Martian surface. The workshop shuddered as ancient machinery groaned to life. The tunnels were part of the original colony, she explained as the floor began to descend. "Most people forgot about them after the Corps took over, but I've spent years mapping them, setting up backup routes. We can travel halfway across Mars down here if we need to." The workshop dropped into darkness, massive doors sliding shut above them, just as the first explosions rocked the surface. Their pursuers had realized the deception and were now bombarding the area in frustration. "Impressive," Echo projected, their patterns showing what Sarah interpreted as admiration. "You've prepared for every contingency." "Not every contingency," Sarah corrected, guiding the workshop platform through the tunnel network. "I never planned for helping an alien fugitive escape from an interstellar conspiracy. But the principles are the same. Always have a backup plan, and never fight fair if you can help it." They traveled in tense silence for several minutes, the only sound the quiet hum of machinery and the distant rumble of explosions above. Sarah's sensors showed their pursuers still searching the surface, unaware that their quarry had literally gone underground. "We need to reach the far side of Olympus Mons," Sarah said, studying the tunnel maps. "There's an old emergency launch facility there, abandoned after the Corps built their new spaceport. The equipment's outdated, but I've kept it maintained. More importantly, it's completely off their radar." "And my ship?" Echo's patterns showed concern. "The matrix is still highly unstable." Sarah nodded grimly. "That's our biggest problem. The quantum drag modifications are holding for now, but a full space launch will put enormous strain on the systems. We need to find a way to stabilize the matrix permanently before we try breaking orbit." She pulled up the ship's schematics again, studying the unique blend of crystalline biology and quantum mechanics. Something had been nagging at her mind since she first saw the damage, a pattern she couldn't quite place. "Echo," she said slowly, "you said your ships share consciousness with their pilots. Could that be the key? The physical damage we can patch, but maybe the real problem is that the ships, confused, traumatized by the attack." Echo's patterns shifted in surprise. "You think like Illumini." "Yes, our ships are more than mere vessels. They are partners, extensions of ourselves. The damage to the matrix isn't just physical, it's psychic as well." "Then maybe that's where we start," Sarah said, her mind already racing with possibilities. "Not with more repairs, but with healing. And I think I know just the place to do it." The abandoned launch facility beneath Olympus Mons was a cathedral of shadows and forgotten technology. Sarah's maintenance over the years had kept the essential systems functional, but the vast chamber still felt like a tomb of humanity's earlier dreams of space exploration. Her workshop platform settled into the docking bay with a hydraulic hiss, the sound echoing through the cavernous space. This was one of the first deep space launch facilities on Mars, Sarah explained as she activated the emergency lighting. Ancient flood lamps flickered to life, illuminating a massive launch track that disappeared into the mountain's heart. They built it inside the volcano because the natural chambers reduced construction costs. The Corps abandoned it when they developed more efficient surface-based launch systems. Echo's crystalline form cast prismatic patterns across the facility's worn walls as they emerged from their ship. "The mountain. It resonates with unusual energies." Magnetic fields, geometric alignments. Exactly, Sarah said, pulling up detailed scans on her AR display. Olympus Mons isn't just a volcano, it's a natural quantum antenna. Something about its mineral composition and structure creates unique energy patterns. That's why I've kept this place operational. Sometimes you need to work on sensitive equipment away from corporate scanning. She approached Echo's ship, studying how its crystalline surface seemed to pulse in rhythm with the mountain's natural frequencies. Your ship is already responding to the environment. I think we can use this to help stabilize its matrix. Echo's patterns showed curiosity. How? You said your ships are conscious, that they share a psychic bond with their pilots. Right now, your ship's consciousness is traumatized, its quantum matrix disrupted by the attack. But here, surrounded by these natural resonances, Sarah gestured to the chamber around them. It's like a healing environment, a place where the ship can realign itself with the natural quantum fields of spacetime. She began setting up specialized equipment around the ship, quantum field generators, crystalline resonators, and devices of her own design that defied easy categorization. Each one was positioned according to calculations only she fully understood. I'd spent years studying the intersection of consciousness and quantum mechanics, Sarah explained as she worked. Most people think technology is just about machinery and code, but there's something more fundamental happening at the quantum level. Your people understand this. It's why your ships are grown, not built. Echo moved closer to their ship, their patterns shifting in complex ways. You believe we can heal the ship's consciousness using these natural energies. Not just heal it, Sarah said, making final adjustments to her equipment. I think we can help it evolve. The damage forced your ship's quantum matrix into new configurations. Instead of trying to force it back to its original state, we can help it adapt, become something stronger. She stepped back, surveying her work. But I can't do this part. The ship needs to connect with you, its pilot. I can provide the environment and the technical framework, but the actual healing has to come from within. Echo's form brightened with understanding. They moved to the center of Sarah's carefully arranged devices, their crystalline structure beginning to resonate with the equipment. The ship's surface rippled in response, its patterns synchronizing with Echo's. I need to monitor the quantum field stability, Sarah said, retreating to her control station. If anything goes wrong, I'll... She trailed off as the air itself seemed to come alive with energy. Echo's consciousness had merged fully with their ship, creating a display of light and geometry that defied human comprehension. The natural resonances of Olympus Mons amplified the effect, turning the entire chamber into a quantum crucible. Sarah's instruments were registering patterns she'd never seen before. The ship's damaged matrix wasn't just stabilizing. It was reorganizing itself into entirely new configurations. Echo and the ship were evolving together, guided by the mountain's ancient energies and Sarah's technological framework. Hours passed like minutes as Sarah monitored the process, making minute adjustments to her equipment to maintain optimal conditions. She found herself holding her breath as the final transformations took place, the ship's crystalline surface flowing like liquid light. When it was done, both Echo and their ship had changed. The vessel's structure was more organic, more fluid, yet somehow stronger than before. Echo's own form had taken on new complexities, their patterns suggesting depths of awareness that hadn't existed before. How do you feel? Sarah asked, approaching cautiously. Echo's response came not just as thoughts, but as a symphony of light and sensation. We are more. The ship is not just healed, it has transcended its original design. And their patterns shifted in what Sarah interpreted as wonder. I understand things now that I never could before. The quantum nature of reality, the underlying patterns of spacetime. Sarah nodded, studying her readings. The damage forced your systems to adapt. By working with that adaptation instead of against it, you've developed new capabilities. The question is, will it be enough to get us off Mars and past your pursuers? A deep rumble interrupted them. Not from the mountain, but from above. Sarah's sensors lit up with multiple warnings. Speaking of pursuers, they found us. Multiple ships moving into position around the mountain. They're setting up a blockade. Echo's patterns stabilized into something more focused, more determined. They expect us to be weak, damaged, trying to slip past them. They don't realize what we've become. No, Sarah said, a fierce grin spreading across her face as she began power-up sequences for the launch facility. They don't. And that's exactly what we need. One last surprise to even the odds. The ancient launch chamber thrummed with power as Sarah initiated the final launch sequences. Above them, through kilometers of Martian rock, her sensors tracked 12 heavily armed ships forming a killing zone. They were waiting for a damaged vessel trying to slip through their net. What they'd get instead would rewrite everything both species thought they knew about what was possible. Launch trajectory calculated, Sarah announced from her control station. But even with the ship's evolution, breaking through that blockade won't be easy. They've positioned themselves to cover every possible escape vector. Echo's newly transformed consciousness reached out, merging with both their ship and Sarah's launch systems. Perhaps we don't need an escape vector. Perhaps we make our own path. Sarah felt it then, a subtle shift in the quantum field surrounding them. The ship wasn't just ready for launch. It was reaching into the fabric of space-time itself, preparing to do something unprecedented. The modifications we made, Echo projected, their patterns shifting with newfound understanding. They didn't just heal the ship. They allowed it to perceive quantum reality in new ways. We can see the spaces between spaces, the paths that exist in probability rather than physical space. Sarah's mind raced with implications. You're talking about quantum tunneling, not just at the particle level, but with an entire ship. She checked her readings, eyes widening. The energy requirements would be met by the natural quantum amplification of Olympus Mons. Echo finished. Your choice of location wasn't just for healing. It gave us exactly what we needed for this moment. The enemy ships were moving into their final positions. Sarah's sensors showed them powering up weapon systems, preparing to vaporize anything that emerged from the mountain. If we're going to do this, it has to be now, Sarah said, hands flying over her controls. Once we start the launch sequence, we'll only have seconds before they detect us. Echo's form pulsed with determined energy. Then let us show them what happens when human ingenuity meets Lumini evolution. Sarah slammed the launch initiator. The ancient facility roared to life, electromagnetic accelerators hurling them up the launch track at impossible speeds. The ship's crystalline structure sang with power, quantum fields wrapping around them in layers of possibility. They burst from the mountain's heart like a newborn star, but instead of trying to punch through the blockade, they did something else entirely. The ship's evolved quantum drive activated, and reality shifted. For a moment that stretched into eternity, they existed everywhere and nowhere. Their consciousness spread across multiple quantum states. Sarah's augmented senses tried to process the experience, but human language had no words for moving through probability itself. They emerged behind the blockade, but more importantly, they emerged with proof. The ship's quantum sensing had recorded everything, not just the conspirators' vessels, but the quantum signatures of their communications, the encrypted orders linking them directly to their masters in both human and Lumini power structures. Reading multiple ships in pursuit, Sarah reported, watching her tactical display light up. They're scrambling everything they have. Let them come, Echo projected, their patterns showing fierce joy. We're not running anymore. The transformed ship responded to their combined will, its crystalline structure flowing like liquid light. They didn't just have proof of the conspiracy now. They had the means to broadcast it across all quantum frequencies, directly into the consciousness of both species. The pursuing ships opened fire, filling space with energy beams and projectiles. But the evolved vessel danced through their attacks, existing in multiple probability states simultaneously. Each near hit only provided more energy for their quantum systems to absorb and redirect. Broadcasting now, Sarah announced, activating the quantum transmission protocols they developed. Every quantum-capable device in both human and Lumini space will receive the evidence. No way to stop it, no way to deny it. The response was immediate and overwhelming. Civilian ships began appearing at the edges of their sensor range, drawn by the quantum broadcast. Military vessels from both species arrived moments later, their commanders having received irrefutable proof of the conspiracy that had nearly driven them to war. The conspirators' ships found themselves suddenly surrounded, their own forces turning against them as the truth spread across quantum channels faster than light itself. In the space of minutes, a plot years in the making had been exposed and neutralized. Hours later, as they watched the conspirators being taken into custody by a joint human Lumini task force, Sarah turned to Echo. "So what happens now? This changes everything between our species." Echo's patterns shifted thoughtfully. "Indeed. But perhaps that was always the point. Not just exposing the conspiracy, but showing what's possible when we work together. Your understanding of quantum mechanics, combined with our biological technology, we've created something entirely new." Sarah looked at the transformed ship, its crystalline surface still rippling with possibilities. "A bridge between our species. A way to show that our differences don't have to divide us. They can make us stronger. And you, Sarah Chen," Echo projected warmly, "you who were content to stay hidden in your workshop, have helped change the course of two civilizations." Sarah smiled, watching through her AR display, as ships from both species began working together to secure the area. "Maybe that's what I was really fixing all along. Not just broken machines, but broken connections." The ship's quantum field hummed around them, resonating with the combined potential of two species, learning to see past their differences. In the space between stars, human ingenuity and alien evolution had created something new. A future where the boundaries between possible and impossible were just the beginning of what they could achieve together. "So," Sarah said, bringing up a navigational display, "ready to show me your homeworld? I think we got some more fixing to do." Echo's patterns brightened with what was unmistakably laughter. "Indeed we do, Sarah Chen. Indeed we do."